Beta, I did about characteristic or features of vectors yesterday.
Yes, ma'am.
I've taken up the same topic for a few minutes today, but from the book, so that you may not get confused when you read this. Array site, you know now, we had discussed about this.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
giving you, because when you people read books, you may get confused. So I thought, let me take this. Array site, sequence from where replication starts, and any piece of DNA when linked to this sequence can be made to replicate. This sequence is responsible for controlling the copy number of linked DNA. Copy number means how many copies we are going to get. How many copies we will get, that is known as copy number. From one gene, you want to make how many? That is what we call as copy number. Selectable markers, we had done yesterday. You remember we did selectable markers?
Yes, ma'am.
Please read about selectable markers. There is a word which is coming over here, transformation. Okay. So I've taken up this page so that if you come across any word which was missed out yesterday, we can do. I talked about sites now where the enzyme cuts. What were those sites called as?
Restriction sites.
Restriction sites. So don't worry, this recognition site, cloning sites are almost the same. I thought you may get confused. Please read these two paragraphs, selectable marker and cloning sites. Let me discuss with you. You will see that it is the same. However, there are some words which you may get confused. So I thought I'll take it up. And which vector is shown here in the figure? I discussed this vector with you yesterday.
PBR 322.
Very good. So leave the diagram as of now. Just read the above paragraphs. Let me take up the first paragraph with you. That is selectable markers. It helps in it helps in identifying or selecting transformants. What do you mean by the word transformants? Those hosts, tell me what are transformants, Veda? Those host cells in which change has occurred. Your gene, foreign gene has already entered. They are known as transformants. Supposing I took two host cells and I inserted a gene in both of them. In one host cell, the gene has entered, it is showing its effect. The other, it is not showing. So the first one in which the gene has successfully entered and showing its effect will be known as a transformant. What will it be called?
Transformant.
If you remember yesterday, I talked about an enzyme which produces a gene which produces an enzyme. What was the name of the gene?
Lexit.
And which enzyme was it producing?
Beta-galactosidase.
Beta-galactosidase. Now just tell me listen to my question very carefully and tell me about transformins. I took this gene, LAGZ gene, and introduced it in two hosts, number 1 and number 2. After a few days, I saw that number 1 contains this enzyme and number 2 does not contain. So which one is a transformant, number 1 or number 2?
Number 1. Number 1.
Very good. So selectable markers help you to identify transformants and eliminate the non-transformants by selectively permitting the growth of the transformation. So we'll select that, yes, these are the transformants, and we'll remove we'll remove whom? The non-transformants. Non-transformants are, we try to introduce the gene with the help of a vector, but probably the gene after entering inside was not active. So we did not find any change in the host. So such kinds are known as non-transformants. What do we call these organisms as?
Non-transformants.
Yes. So which one is a transformant? Which one is a non-transformant? Who will help you to identify and select? Selectable
markers.
We had talked about two selectable markers. One was the antibiotic resistant gene and the second was?
Enzyme producing.
Yes. So the same heading you can add on. Now what is transformation? You take a piece of DNA. This is put in the host. Normally those genes which encode resistance to antibiotics, I talked about this, ampicillin, tetracycline, are considered as useful selectable markers. For E. coli, these genes work as selectable markers very successfully for which host?
E. coli.
The normal E. coli, which are not transformants, do not carry resistance against any of these antibiotics. So once you put the gene, they get resistance against antibiotics. So the transformants will be those E. coli which have resistance against antibiotics. Otherwise, the normal ones, the non-transformants, they do not have resistance against antibiotics. Now this, I'll be discussing this with you, cloning sites or recognition sites. Okay, look at this word, cloning site or recognition site. Okay. These are generally required to link the foreign DNA. You remember, why do we need to have a site where we can cut so that the foreign DNA can attach? What do? The vector requires very few or single recognition sites for commonly used restriction enzymes. If more than one recognition site is present within the vector, it will generate several fragments, which will lead to very much of complications. Clear? This we had done yesterday, that we need to have Y only one or very few restriction sites. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
The why I've taken up this is, remember that the same sites are also known as cloning sites or recognition sites. What was the word we had used in the PDF yesterday that we discussed?
Restriction sites.
Yes. So we have more names for this. Don't get confused. Cloning site means the same thing. I think this PBR 322, everybody recognizes, we had done yesterday. See this now. The ligation of the foreign DNA. Ligation means, do you remember the word ligase? Ligation means adding, sticking or adding. Very good. So if you want to stick or you want to add a foreign DNA at a particular site, supposing we had opened this plasmid, we had got a linear plasmid, we had got a linear DNA, and then we did the ligation of a foreign DNA. So we do it, we add on at one of the two antibiotic resistant genes. Which are the two antibiotic resistant genes we had in this vector? Tell me. Ampicillin and?
Ampicillin
And? Tell me the second one. Tetracycline. Which were the two antibiotics we had here?
Ampicillin and tetracycline.
Yes. Now let us see how can we ligate, how can we stick this foreign DNA to these genes. There are certain steps in this. Number one is inactivation of antibiotic resistant gene. First of all, you need to make your antibiotic resistant gene inactive. You have to make your antibiotic resistant gene inactive. See, beta, supposing you want your foreign DNA to attach at this site. Which site is this? Name this site. BAM. Speak out, beta.
BAM 3.
This is BAM. Chalo 3 or BAM H1. We want to attach it over here. Tetracycline resistant gene in the vector PBR322. The recombinant plastid will lose tetracycline resistance. See, if you take your foreign gene and you attach it over here, it's close to which antibiotic? Tetracycline or ampicillin?
Tetracycline.
Yes. So if you attach your foreign gene over here, what will happen to this vector? It will lose resistance to tetracycline. But it can still be selected out from the non-recombinant ones by plating transformants on ampicillin-containing medium. Now this has happened, but how will we identify now? We need to select this. We need to select between combinants and non-recombinants. There is one very simple way of selecting transformants and non-transformants or recombinants. How can we do? We plate transformants on ampicillin-containing medium. We take a medium which contains only what? Only which antibiotic?
Ampicillin.
Very good. Ampicillin. And we put all the vector, we put all the material that we have. We don't know whether they are transformants or they're non-transformants. We have to select them. So we took all of them and we are growing them in a medium which contains only one antibiotic. Which antibiotic?
Ampicillin.
Ampicillin. Now, transformants growing on the medium containing ampicillin are then transferred on a medium containing tetracycline. Rather than putting them together, first we put them only in ampicillin. Okay. Those which grow in ampicillin, those which are not growing, they are non-transformants. They are as it is eliminated. But those varieties which can grow in ampicillin medium are then again transferred to medium number 2, which contains the second antibiotic. What is it? Second antibiotic?
Tetracycline.
Tetracycline. The recombinants will grow on ampicillin containing medium, but not on the containing tetracycline. Now, those which grow in ampicillin but do not grow in tetracycline are actually your recombinants, because we said that they have got resistance to which one? They will lose what resistance?
Tetracycline.
Because your, very good, because your foreign gene was added at this place. So your recombinants lost resistance to tetracycline. They will certainly grow in which one?
Ampicillin.
Ampicillin. But they will not grow in?
Tetracycline.
So you could easily differentiate that, yes, these are the recombinants which have resistance to tetracycline. Okay. Now see this. One antibiotic resistance gene helps in selecting the transformants, whereas the other antibiotic resistant gene gets inactivated due to insertion of alien DNA and helps in selection of recombinants. So what was happening in this beta? One gene had got inactivated. Which gene got inactivated? Which one? Ampicillin or tetracycline?
Tetracycline.
Tetracycline.
Because of the insertion of a DNA, foreign DNA at which site? Site closer to?
Tetracycline.
So we could identify the transformants. First, we'll grow them in ampicillin. Now, after they have grown in ampicillin, we'll shift them to a medium which contains tetracycline. So those which cannot grow in tetracycline and those which can grow in tetracycline. This will help us to differentiate between recombinants and non-recombinants. So the first step we did was inactivation of the antibiotic resistant gene. This antibiotic resistant gene was inactivated by ligating what, children? What did we ligate? What did we add at this site?
Vector.
A foreign DNA. What did we ligate at this place?
Foreign DNA.
Foreign DNA. So first step is done. Inactivation of antibiotic resistance gene. We have made this gene inactive by ligating what? Ligating what?
Foreign DNA.
Foreign DNA. And we have made inactive one antibiotic resistant gene or both?
One.
So listen to this slide now. The ligation of the foreign DNA is carried out at a site present in one of the two antibiotic resistant genes. One of the two. It could be this or it could be this. First step is already done. One of the antibiotic resistant gene has become inactive. Now look at the second step. Insertional inactivation. Insertional inactivation. Now we have selected the recombinants. And how could we select the recombinants? Because of inactivation of which gene? Inactivation of which gene?
Tetracycline.
Yes, one antibiotic gene. But this is a very cumbersome procedure, very, very time consuming, slow procedure, because it requires simultaneous plating of two plates having different antibiotics. Because you need to prepare two plates of two different antibiotics. Like in the first one, we had which plate did we use in the first step in this PBR? Which antibiotic plate was used first? Ampicillin or tetracycline? Ampicillin. And then we moved on to another plate that was tetracycline. Children, you see, it takes a lot of time. First, you make them grow on ampicillin plate, wait till they grow. Then those who have grown the recombinants, you remove them from the first plate and you transfer them to the second plate, which contains the second antibiotic. Which was the second plate? Which was the second antibiotic they were having?
Tetracycline.
So it takes a lot of time, very time consuming. That is why we say this is what kind of a procedure?
Cumbersome.
Yes, it's a cumbersome procedure. Therefore, alternative selectable markers have been developed which differentiate recombinants from non-recombinants. It is based on the ability to produce color in the presence of a chromogenic substrate, because it's a very time-consuming process. And the main purpose is only to differentiate between transformants and non-transformants. But it takes a lot of time. How it takes a lot of time, children? You need to grow them first on one medium plate. They'll take time. After that, you need to transfer the recombinants to the second medium plate. Again, you need to give them time to grow. So it takes a lot of time. That is why we say the procedure is
Cumbersome.
Yes, beta. It's a very cumbersome process. It's a very slow, tedious, boring process. So we use another method. We use a color detection method. What is it called? What kind of a substance we are going to take in this?
Homogenic substrate.
Yes. Now see beta, look at this word, chromogenic substrate. A substrate which has the ability to produce color. Chromogenic substrate. Now understand what do we do in this. If we don't want to go for this system, we can do this. A recombinant DNA is inserted within the coding sequence of an enzyme, beta-galactosidase. You remember this enzyme I had talked about yesterday?
Yes, ma'am.
So we introduce the LAGZ gene, and which enzyme is already being produced?
Beta-galactosidase.
Beta-galactosidase.
So we have taken a foreign DNA and we have attached it to this enzyme. So this enzyme will become inactive. As soon as you attach a recombinant DNA, an rDNA to this enzyme, coding sequence of this enzyme becomes inactive. That is, inactivation of the enzyme takes place. This process is called insertional inactivation. Because we inserted what?
Recombinant DNA.
Yes, beta, please speak out. What did we insert, children?
Recombinant DNA.
Recombinant DNA. And what became inactive by insertion?
Beta-galactosidase.
Yes. So by inserting, this became inactive. That is why this process is known as insertional inactivation. Therefore, the bacterial colonies which will have the inserted plasmid will show no color. There will be no color because this has become inactive now, recombinant colonies. But those without plasmid will show blue color. Those which have this will show blue color. Those which do not have, no color will be there. Now this beta-galactosidase is working like a reporter enzyme. I told you can use this gene also which produces this enzyme. So this enzyme is actually acting like a reporter. It is telling you that because when it becomes inactive, it helps you to identify which colonies or which hosts are transformed and which ones are not transformed. So there are two methods we did. The first method was this one. Okay, first you inactivate the antibiotic resistant gene, any one of them. But you grow them first on one, then you grow them on second, and you can differentiate between recombinants and non-recombinants. But this process is a very, very
Cumbersome process.
very good. So we need the other process. Okay, we are going to use which substrate?
Chromogenic substrate.
Very good. Can you explain the process? Just read one, insertional inactivation, and try to explain. Yes, Vika. We try to inactivate which enzyme?
Beta-galactosidase.
Very good. By inserting what? By inserting?
Recombinant DNA.
Very good. This process is called as what? What inactivation is this?
Insertional inactivation.
Very good. This is called insertional inactivation. Now this enzyme really helps us. Okay. How does it help us? It will give different colors. So whenever you are going to insert a recombinant DNA in beta-galactosidase, this will become inactive. So whichever case DNA got attached to the enzyme became inactive. You inserted a DNA in all the varieties that you had. but in some the DNA got attached, in some it did not get attached. So the ones in which it got attached to this enzyme has become inactive. So the ones which had this foreign DNA, no color will be shown. Why no color will be shown? Because what has become inactive?
Beta-galactosidase.
Very. And the ones where no change came, non-recombinant, that means even after inserting this DNA could not attach itself to beta-galactosidase. So these are the non-recombinants. They will show which color? The ones which do not have the plasmid are going to show which color?
Blue color.
Blue color. So beta-galactosidase is helping like a reporter gene. It is helping you to differentiate between transformants and non-transformants. Don't get confused between transformant and non-transformant. Transformant means the host in which some change has occurred after the gene is inserted and it has changed a bit. That is a transformant. And the ones in which the change has not occurred, what do you call them as?
Non-transformants.
Non-transformants. Now read this next topic very quickly. Let me explain it to you. Read quickly, beta. What is the topic that we are reading?
Vectors for cloning gene in plants and animals.
This is more of learning part, beta. I'll discuss it with you quickly. Yes, let's come back to the topic. Whatever you've done, let's read it very quickly. Ayush Gupta is so late. Vectors for cloning genes in plants and animals. If you want to clone your genes, what does cloning mean? To have more copies? What is clone? What are clones?
Except for something.
Yes. Cloning is having more copies. So which vectors should we use if we want to clone genes in plants and animals? In plants, Agrobacterium tumefaciens. This is a pathogen of dicot plants. This is used to deliver a piece of DNA. And because this DNA is transferred, we call this as tDNA. And this DNA, when it goes, it transfers the normal plant cells into tumor cells. Okay? And these tumor cells, they start producing chemicals which are required by the pathogen. How do we do this? This is done with tumor-inducing plasmids. There are certain plasmids which cause tumor, TI plasmids. Such plasmids which cause tumor, they are known as TI plasmids, that is tumor-inducing plasmids. And we take this TI from this pathogen. Which one? Agrobacterium tumefaciens. This is a cloning vector. Now, this is no longer pathogenic to plants. Now it does not cause harm to plants, but it goes and it delivers your gene of interest. Vector, what does a vector do? It takes your foreign gene or it takes your gene of interest into the host in which you want. So here in this case that we have done, who is carrying the gene of interest? Which pathogen? Name this. Agrobacterium tumefaciens. What is the name?
Agrobacterium tumefaciens.
Beta, you need to learn the names of these vectors. They're generally asked. One vector in plants used and one vector in animals. So in plants, we are basically using a plasmid of Agrobacterium tumefaciens. We have modified it a little. What modification have we done? In normal cases, it is pathogenic. It is harmful for the plants. Why is it harmful? Because once it enters, it changes the cells into which cells? Tumor cells. And then these tumor cells start producing chemicals. And why it does this? Because these chemicals are required by the pathogen to remain alive. So this is a very smart pathogen. Agrobacterium tumefaciens. Please name this pathogen.
Agrobacterium tumefaciens.
This is a pathogen. It goes and attacks the dicot plants. What does it do? Basically, in normal cases, it will change the normal plant cells into tumor cells. And then these cells will start producing chemicals which are required here. Okay. Now, we have done some modification in this. What modification? It is no longer pathogenic to the plant. Now, it does not cause any damage to the plant, but it is helping us to deliver what? To deliver or to take inside the plant what?
Gene of interest.
Gene of interest. Vector does what? Vector actually carries your gene of interest to the host. So for plants, this is the best vector. Whatever gene of interest you want to insert in a dicot plant, which vector should you use?
Agrobacterium tumefaciens.
Yes, a little modification we have done. And in animals, we use some more. Look at here, retrovirus, adenovirus, papillomavirus. They are used as cloning vectors in animals because they have the ability to transform normal cells into cancerous cells. So name the three vectors basically used in animal cells. Speak out.
Retrovirus, adenovirus, papilloma.
Papilloma. And the one which was used in plants basically, what was its name?
Agrobacterium tumefaciens.
Basically, we take pathogens because their attacking power is very strong, and then we modify them in such a way that after entering the host, they do not cause damage to the host. They are no longer pathogens for the host, but they go inside and leave the gene of interest, which we wanted. So they are very good vectors. For plants, we can use this Agrobacterium, and for animals, we can use this. Competent host organism for transformation with recombinant DNA. See, beta, DNA is a hydrophilic molecule, so it cannot pass through cell membranes. It cannot on its own pass through cell membranes because what is the nature of DNA?
It is hydrophilic. Molecule.
Okay. So we have to force the bacteria to take up the plasmids. Supposing we want to insert a plasmid into a bacteria. So we will have to force the bacteria to take up the plasmid. It will not take the plasmid because the plasmid contains DNA and DNA's nature is what?
Hydrophilic.
So it will not let any molecule any host will not easily allow a foreign DNA to enter. Okay. So we need to prepare the host first so that it can accept that foreign DNA. This preparation is what we call as making the host competent. What is it called? Making the host what?
Competent.
Competent. So what do you mean by competency? Ability of a cell to take up foreign DNA is what we call as competency. Now, supposing you have 2-3 bacteria or 2-3 plant cells or animal cells. The number one is able to take up the foreign DNA. The number two is not able to take up. So which one is a competent host? Number one or number two?
Number one.
Yes, number one. So those hosts which accept foreign DNA, which take in foreign DNA, what are these hosts known as?
Competent host.
Competent host. But beta, host, normally 99% cases, we do not have competent host. We have to make the hosts competent. Is it okay for everybody? Everybody understood what is a competent host?
Yes, ma'am.
Those hosts which can accept a, what do they accept?
Foreign DNA.
foreign DNA. Such hosts are known as competent host, but we do not have competent host. We have to make the host competent. There are three ways which help you to make your host competent. The first is the chemical method. In this, you take the cells and you treat them with divalent cations. Divalent cations means positively charged ions which have a valency of 2. For example, calcium. What will this do? How will this help? This will increase the efficiency with which DNA enters the bacterium through the pores in the cell wall. The pores will open up a little more. In the cell wall, you've got pores. They'll broaden up and the DNA will be able to enter. After the DNA has entered the cell wall, then the cells are incubated with recombinant DNA on ice. After you feel, yes, the DNA has entered, now you need to incubate. Incubate means you need to ensure that they are all together. You need to put them on ice after that. Where will you put them on?
Ice.
Ice. First on ice, then you put them at a high temperature, 42 degrees, and then again back on ice. Okay, again back on what? Ice. See, what we need to do is first on ice, then at a temperature of 42 degrees Celsius, and then back on ice. So this method is very important. It is called as the heat shock method. What is this method called as?
Heat shock method. Heat shock method.
Why is it called heat shock method? Understand. First, it was very comfortable and cool because it was on ice. All of a sudden, we gave a shock. We took it at a heat, that is 42 degrees Celsius. Yes. Yes, beta. First, we put it on ice. Then we heated it to 42 degrees Celsius and then back on ice. What is this method known as?
Heat shock method.
With the help of this method, the foreign DNA will insert inside into what? Into your host. Your second method, we are making the host competent. These methods are for making competent host. Second method is physical method. Micro injections are used, beta, to insert the DNA into the host cell directly with the help of an injection. You inject it. We have special gene guns, biolistics. This is another method in plants. What do? We take cells and we take microparticles of gold or tungsten and cover it with DNA. We take particles of gold or tungsten and we do a coating of DNA. And with a lot of speed, these particles are hit with the plants. What will happen? The particles will go inside, leave the DNA in the plants and move forward. Yes, beta. Is it okay? What is this method called as? Gene gun method. What is this method known as?
Gene gun method. Ma'am, can you please explain it once?
Yes, the third one, disarmed pathogen vectors. Vectors which cause infection are used to infect the cell and they transfer the recombinant DNA into the host. So this foreign DNA is put in the host with the help of vectors. We just did this. Retrovirus, papillomavirus in case of animals, and which one in case of plants? What was the name in case of plants? Agrobacterium. What was it?
Agrobacterium.
So there are three ways of making your host competent. One is the heat and shock method. First put in ice, then at 42 degrees Celsius,